to Unstuck and Alive. I'm Todd Pinkston.
And I'm Stephen Nooner.
We have watched it happen.
Fear gives way to faith.
Isolation melts into belonging.
The stuck places break open and life begins to flow again.
On this show, we sit around the fire, so to speak, and listen to the real stories of everyday heroes.
Men and women who have found freedom and stepped into the unforced purpose they were made for.
If you're tired of striving, if you're longing to breathe deep, break free, and come alive again, then you're in the right spot. This is Unstuck and Alive. Let's go. All right.
We're here. Becky is so thrilled. Todd's doing a podcast.
Hey, I'm here with Bill Strahan, serial entrepreneur, dear friend. Started multiple companies. He's been in the tech industry, the fitness industry, the machining industry, and he has had a profound impact on my life. One of the most influential people in my world that shaped me. I'm excited to get to sit down with Bill today. I'm sure this will be the first of many. Bill, welcome. Excited to talk. So, Bill, tell me, when was the last time you checked your email?
Just a few moments ago.
Before that?
Oh, a few days ago.
Bill, what'd you eat for dinner last night?
Steak.
How much?
Couple pounds. and I ate it at, I say last night. It actually wasn't last night. It was this morning. I worked late. I was on the phone with Mitch for a long time. I got in the house about 11:50 and cooked a ribeye and had a ribeye and some cherries at like 12:10.
And by a ribeye, you mean like a couple pounds? Anything this morning?
Oh, no. Caffeine because I only slept 5 hours.
Hey, I love you. I'm so grateful for you in my life. You are one of those guys that to me, you shift the perspective. You help me see from a different angle. I'm excited to get to talk with you. I always love time to sit down with you, but I'm super excited for just to share that with others. That this is a gift that others get to hear from you, and so this can go wherever you want it. Excited to see where the Lord takes it. But where I would love to start is on a cold, snowy day, roughly early August in 2013. You're on a backpacking trip with a group of guys you've been working out with. You were super reluctant to go, and we're on day 4, and all of a sudden a snowstorm comes in, and there's a moment where you're under a tarp, you're in shorts. One of the guys might have asked about hypothermia, and in that moment, something changed in you. Tell me about it. What happened during that time?
Well, let me back up a little bit. I love you too. And it's great to be here. And I'm thrilled you're doing a podcast. So we were exactly where you described. I don't remember when the question of hypothermia occurred. That didn't affect me too much. But when we're about 45 minutes into this experience, which I'm not that cold at that point, and somebody asks about frostbite, I was like, guys, there wouldn't be that many humans here if we were so fragile. However, we were on the side of a mountain in a pretty good driving storm with a tarp over us and ice building up. And I could feel the part of me that is just kind of a part that's always been there. The part that just starts churning, the part that starts making plans and figuring things out. And okay, well, if this continues and it builds up this much, at what point, do I need to start to exert control over the situation? and I've said for years, I don't have control issues. I have issues when I'm not in control. Being in control is great. I have no issue being in control. I have out of control issues. But my whole life, I had done that, and sometimes to my detriment, sometimes to my benefit. But regardless, it wasn't in an area of choice. It wasn't like I was choosing to do it. And in that moment, I could just feel the little bit of stress and energy and start to grow. And I'm starting to think about, well, how do I handle this? And how does this occur? And all of a sudden, it was just, it wasn't words, but it was just like God reached down and just touched me and just said, Bill, you don't have to control things. There's someone more powerful than you who does that. And your only job right now is to just sit there and be cold. And it was the most profound moment,
Hmm.
probably of my life, because instantly I'm looking at the areas of my life where I wasn't just sitting there. I wasn't just being where I was. I wasn't saying, well, my job right now is to love being with my wife. It's not to control this thing and take care of this. Or my job right now is to enjoy this time with my kids. Or sometimes my job right now is to just experience the pain of things that can occur in relationships and not try and fix them. And it was literally almost embarrassing. Here it is. I'm in my 40s. It was literally the first time in my life that I've ever just taken a step back and realized I don't have to control and manage everything or try to control and manage everything. And I just took a deep breath and felt the tears come up, and just, it was like God said, I've got it. Just work hard on the things you need to. And right now, there's nothing you need to do. Just be cold. And so I sat there and I was moderately cold.
Hmm.
Life's never been the same.
Why has life never been the same? I mean, such a it's such a simple realization that changes things. How has it changed?
It is a simple realization, but some of the most powerful things are simple, not necessarily easy, but some of the most powerful things are simple. Spend less than you make, invest it. Simple. I mean, anyone should be able to do it. And that's powerful. I think what was so changing about it was once you have awareness, you can't unaware yourself.
Hmm.
You once you realize that something is so, something is true, once you realize that, you can't unrealize it. And sometimes that can be confronting. I think there are people who turn to drugs and other distractions to try and pull themselves away from the awareness that they actually have. But once I had the awareness that this this isn't something I've been choosing to do. This is just what I thought life was. I thought life was trying to control my environment and bend it to my will constantly. And once I was aware that that was what I did, then inside that awareness, all of a sudden now I have this choice. It's like, okay, well, I need to finish this product and get it on my website. I'm going to try and control that. This person over here is doing this, and I'm not going to try and control that. All of a sudden, a whole new life unfolded, because the number of times that I could just say, you know what, I'm just okay with that, or I'm not okay at the moment, but I'm going to work towards okay. I don't have to control it, and you can't unaware yourself. My life since then, I've at least had the awareness that I have choice in this matter. I can either control the things I want to control, or I can decide I have no control over there and I'll just let it go. And before that moment, I only had one path, because there wasn't the choice to, you can't take the fork in the road if there's no fork. And so that was kind of where I was before.
Hmm. Bill, one of the things I admire about you the most is the way, in just a simple statement or phrase, you can totally shift my perspective. Like, I remember walking into the gym one day. It was like year 3 of WayForward, and we were gonna have to spend like 25 grand on lodging, like to rent a place for the summer. And I walked in, and our budget was probably 150 or something crazy. And walk in, and I'm like, Bill, you're like, how you doing? I'm like, terrible. We're gonna have to. We're going to have to, it's going to cost us 25 grand for lodging this summer. And you just look back at me without even, breaking stride. And you're like, man, isn't that great when it'll be 100 grand? I was like, what?
When
What?
you get to spend 100 grand,
And
not have
in
to.
just that moment, you shifted my perspective of like, yeah, because that'll mean more people are on trail, more people are impacted. Won't that be awesome? And so like you're my go-to call when it comes to like, I need to see this from a different angle. How did you learn to think like that? Like who impacted your thinking in life to where you don't just take the first glance at something, but you think hard about how to look at it from a different angle. You have, you know, conditioned yourself in that way. How'd you get there?
That's a really great question. I'm going to be a little all over the map with this, which is, just me being consistent with who I am. I think first of all, I really had the privilege of growing up with three very influential men, my dad and both of my grandfathers.
Hmm.
And sorry, I just realized today is my dad's birthday.
Hmm.
Just give me a moment. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, back to once you're aware of something, you can't unaware yourself. That was an interesting moment to suddenly be aware of what today's date was. I have no idea why that occurred. In any case, I was very fortunate to have those three men because they poured into me in their areas of expertise and in their areas of passion, and it was clear where the overlaps were. And all of that involved a degree of problem solving. My dad was a businessman and an entrepreneur, and I got exposed to that. I also got to be a part of it. His father was a dentist, but his passion was his ranch, and he had thousands of acres down near Hamilton. And so I got to experience being on the ranch with him, especially in the summers, and repairing things and fixing things. And you want to ride the mini bike, but the mini bike's broken, so I'm going to show you how to fix it. And all of those things were treated. I should also mention my mom's father teaching me electronics and basic engineering and all sorts of things. Just they influenced me so heavily. My dad was very big into kind of the self help, self improvement, that type of thing. There was a period of time when he was in Amway, and so you get the multi level marketing, influencing people, and kind of a positive thinking approach. I still remember I still remember just how much he had been influencing me when I was in school. This was probably maybe 10th, 11th grade. And I told my math teacher, I said, it really is a negative way to phrase this. You should call these math challenges, not math problems. And teacher just looked at me like I was crazy, but that's okay. But there was another moment that that immediately came up when you asked the question, and it was my dad had asked me one day. I was maybe 12 or 13. My dad had asked me, "What great thing would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail?" And he was talking about this idea, and my first thought was, "Oh my gosh, I totally see what you're saying. If you knew you couldn't fail, you wouldn't try anything, because where's the fun in that? It's the not knowing, it's the adventure of do I succeed or not." And then he describes his thoughts on it. And it's clear that what he meant was, if you knew you couldn't fail, then you're certain to achieve this great outcome. What would you go do? And when I
Hmm.
had this almost like mental vertigo situation of, oh wow, I totally interpreted that in a radically different way. And I told him mine, and he's like, huh. I think a lot of problem solving was heavily influenced by those men. But then early on, I started to realize there's so many different ways to approach something. And more often than not, you just have to look at things from a perspective until you get the perspective that you want. It's if you were trying to attach two things and there was a bolt hole on one side of it, but you're only looking at this side, okay, well, you don't even know there's a solution. It's only when you take something and you start to look at different ways and you say, oh, And so, like in the example that you gave, one of the things I often ask is there a positive framing to this same thing? Is this, because the negative ones tend to come up automatically. They protect us. You know, if you're standing close to the edge of a cliff, your brain immediately tells you the negative, careful, you might fall off. And so the negatives come up automatically. I think you have to train and practice the, is there another one that is better in some way, whatever that might be, whether it's a happier thing or a more empowering thing, or it makes you realize things are possible that you didn't see. So I practice it for sure.
I remember one time on trail, you told me, breakdowns often precede breakthroughs, but the problem is we avoid breakdowns so often. What does it look like in your life to pursue breakdowns, not for the sake of a breakdown, but because that's the situation in which breakthroughs often occur more readily?
Two different things come up when you ask that. One is in the area of relationships. It's very easy to become avoidant when things become painful, and continuing to risk a difficult conversation, continuing to risk pressing into something, not in a controlling way, but just continuing to assert, like, this is a boundary or this is a need, and continuing to lean into that, even though maybe it hasn't worked before. Maybe it's something you've leaned into for 10, 20 years. Continuing to do it, you have to, I have to accept, this may be a complete breakdown. This may be, I'd like to talk about this, and then later it's a fight, or or some emotional distancing that you don't want in a relationship, and it can be pretty nasty. At least it can for me. I'm volatile by nature, and I continue to work on it and pray for softness. But if you're not willing to risk that type of breakdown, I'd rather have a bunch of fights with my wife and have a passionate, romantic, connected relationship than to never fight at all. Because there's some woman I've never met that I've never had a fight with. And I also have no joy in that whatsoever. I don't know her name. I don't know who she is, but it's true. We've never had a fight. That's not the goal with my wife. I'd rather have a tremendous breakdown and continue to pursue. Don't always do it, but I know the value in it. From a business, relationships, it's probably pursuing difficult conversations and accepting that this may end in tears or fighting. In business, it's just constantly risking the failure. I get that little, even on little things, and the things I do these days are not that important, but I still get that little knot in my stomach of, what if nobody likes this? Or what if people think this is stupid? Or what if they say I've done it all wrong? But if you're going to do anything, you got to be, if you're not failing somehow, you're not doing anything. Or you're not doing anything important.
Bill, so from the world standards, you've been incredibly successful. I mean, you and Becky have started multiple companies. You've had an exit. You've accomplished a lot. You're an influential person, but you still struggle with some of those. What if this doesn't work out? Like some of that negative talk. For me, you have been somebody that the Lord has used in my life to counteract that looming question I've had. Of do I have what it takes? I mean, that was a question I spent so much of my 20s trying to prove to the world I have what it takes. And you've been a voice in that space in my life. For you, what does it look like to continue to go below the line, figure out what the negatives are that are driving you, and what does it look like to explore those, expose them, and find healing in it?
Thinking. I'll start myself talking by saying you've played a similar role for me
Hmm.
in your willingness to jump into the mess of life and the willingness to call me out, to challenge me, etc. I think the general idea is I have to have people that I don't know if call me out is the right idea. I have to have people with whom I know that I'm being transparent enough that they know the questions to ask,
Hmm.
and I trust them enough to answer those questions and then see where the conversation goes. That's what it comes down to. I remember once reading that people who are on deserted islands, those types of things, they tend to go crazy because there isn't any feedback. Part of how we decide like what do humans interact like? How does this all work? Is the feedback that we get as kids. You get these feedback loops where you get negative
Hmm.
feedback from bad interactions and you get positive feedback from good interactions, and it starts to mold your behavior. But that's not just a childhood thing if you're trying to be up to anything other than just reaching adulthood. It continues to be a thing of feedback, but you have to seek it out. As a child, you can't escape it. You are under other people's authority, so it's inescapable. You will get that feedback, but to choose it and subject yourself to it. I was talking with my son Mitch recently about the conversation that I had with you about one time when my wife and I had planned a trip to Africa, and I was all kinds of upset, and and I had all my reasons, and boy, they were great. And I was talking to you because talking to you about it was one of my ways of saying,
Hmm.
here's some of my life, and I trust you enough to share it and to know that you'll have the right questions to ask. And you asked me, are you loving your wife like Christ loved the church? You didn't do it in a mean way. And I won't repeat my response to that, just out of a sense of decorum. But even in the response, I was laughing because I had been so perfectly called out.
Hmm.
So back to that deserted island thing, all of us are capable of putting ourselves on islands. All of us are capable of emulating that deserted island just by not sharing anything. And so if I don't let you see what my life really is on some level, I've isolated myself. And if you're a good justifier, you can convince yourself of anything. So
Hmm.
Uh, certainly prayer, asking for conviction, but mainly surrounding myself with godly men who aren't, oh, there's so many terms that come to mind, who aren't chicken poops and who are willing to say, hey, Bill, like you did on that call. And that call, that was a pivotal moment for me.
Hmm.
That was, that was life changing.
Hmm.
So I think inviting that kind of scrutiny. And it's an easy thing to miss because somewhere in the transition from childhood to adulthood, you don't realize you've given up the feedback that you got from somebody's scrutiny that you couldn't control. And
Hmm.
you're not coached to go seek that scrutiny in other people.
Hmm.
I think part of handing your kids off to adulthood is not just recognizing it, like making sure they know, like, I know you're an adult. I don't have
Hmm.
any authority over you anymore. But I think part of that handoff is also to encourage them to seek out that scrutiny that they used to get when I was in control.
Hmm. What what are some of the things that you've struggled with, just in terms of like the lies that have kind of that have driven you for a while?
Oh man, probably the biggest struggle for me, totally unfiltered, is just pornography.
Hmm.
The it's funny. I can't use the term struggle without hearing Matt Chandler on stage giving his opinions on struggle. Anyway, I'll stop there. That's been probably the single biggest struggle. There are other areas that I feel like I've really sought change in particular in the last 10 years. I don't know that I would call those struggles though. I think if I had to pick something that I truly struggled with, it was just pornography.
Hmm.
And that's still a struggle. I've talked with my I have some people that I talk to about that on a regular basis.
Hmm.
And I think in the area of a struggle, if you're not discussing it and you don't have some kind of plan and you're not treating it as important, then I do agree that's not a struggle. So, and it can be a struggle even when you're winning.
Yeah.
You can go months. Are you still struggling after months? Yes. Not because I'm struggling and I gave in, but because I'm struggling and all the times I wanted to. So as far as the lies, I would say that
Yeah.
if uh, if that ever quits being a struggle, I might be able to point to something else that bubbles up.
Bill, thanks for sharing. I always know I'm going to get the real you, and so much of WayForward has been shaped by its founders, you being one of them, and the authenticity of just being willing to go there. The one I thought you were going to say is friendship. That uh, on that first trip, you shared. I mean, here you were. I mean, you were like a man amongst boys on trip zero. you know, we didn't know if you were actually going to show up. You flew the plane thinking you might, ditch last minute, but you were. I mean, it was kind of that like, man, everybody wanted to be around you. Everybody looked up to you. You were the guy at the gym that, you were older than us, but you whipped our tails in every workout, and it was just fun. It was fun to be around you, and then to hear you share on trail that you struggled to believe that people actually were your friends. I just remember sitting around the circle. I remember where we were and thinking, holy cow, like I love being around this guy. And to think that that talk is inside of you just blew me away. And and it also opened the door for me to be honest with what was going on inside of me. Like I might not have that same lie, but I have other ones that are dominating my thoughts. Um, and so I just need to know 12 years in, Bill, are we friends?
Now that you've had me on your podcast, I think it would be rude to not conclude that we have a deep and profound friendship, Todd,
Mm.
and it means the world to me.
Mm.
I cannot imagine. I'm about to be 58. I cannot imagine this journey, this life, without having Todd in it.
Mm.
What would that path look like? I don't know, but I have no interest in it. And since I went straight to the pornography and didn't talk about the other one, that's changed a lot for me. And
Mm.
I don't that is moving out of struggle a bit. It feels I'm dipping my toe in the water of comfort. I've got I'm up to my big toe. And the comfort, the number of times that you've said things, like I can bring a different perspective on things.
Mm.
And I remember talking to you about it, and man, it's so easy to deflect. At my core, the idea of doing anything that improves someone else's life, come on. I will go through pain and sacrifice, sometimes for a stranger, because that's just how I'm built. But if you tell me I'm actually succeeding at it, I get this part inside that's like, eek, nope, get back away.
Mm.
And I used to deflect those things with humor, and had that time on trail. Jordan Maxwell, he gave me a model, and I've worked it ever since. And that's changed a lot. Recently, hearing my son he was having some hard times, and he and I were talking about it. And it's happened a few times over a couple months. And one day he called me and he just said, "Dad," he said, "no one changes my perspective like you do."
Hmm.
And he said, I can count on you to see a side of it that I don't. And hearing it come from him, boy, there's nothing I want more to be true. So I'm I'm dipping my toe in that, in just being okay with it. And
Hmm.
I will trust that if I ever swing the pendulum too far and I become some pompous guru, people like you will say, "Back it down, Bill." Um, I love people,
Hmm.
and just the idea of making a difference. There's nothing that excites me more.
Hmm.
So now I embrace it. I embrace that I actually can do it, not because there's something great about me, but just because I'm willing to have the conversations.
Yeah,
I embrace it more than I ever have.
it's awesome. Bill, you're the best version of you that I've ever been around right now. I love hearing you talk about Mitch. I feel like there's been a lot more stories about your son as of late. You're working together some, but I think you're just in a really sweet season where you're getting to reap some of the fruit of investing there. And you're a little further down the road than I am. My kids are younger, but man, I just look forward to those days, like the interactions you're getting to have with him, the ways things have come full circle, and him thanking you, him affirming you in the ways that you've invested in, or just the space you've created. And I just look forward to it. So I love hearing that, and it makes me it gives me that extra motivation now when the house is busy to invest in those ways that'll pay off later. So thanks for that. All right,
100%.
switching gears a little bit. So you and your wife Becky, incredible duo. I mean, she'll be on here at some point. This is her idea. She pushes long enough, she gets the job done. Now, you guys are awesome. I mean, you've started companies together. You guys work well together. You spend a ton of time. You travel together. Like, you guys have an amazing relationship. And in 2013, you guys had an exit in the company you started, and you knew you wanted to do something with a portion of that money. Tell me, how did it get to the place where you're asking questions to hundreds of people, and then eventually find some Yahoo who says this? Tell me the story.
It was really amazing timing. So we
Mm.
had sold the company, and I just remember having the feeling that while I think it's important to give a portion of what you make, all of a sudden having a lump sum is different than just a monthly, okay, well, I got a monthly amount that I'm sending to charities or church or whatever. And I remember thinking this has the potential to do something disruptive, which is I like that to begin with. I like disrupting things. I've disrupted a few things in a good way, bad way too, but I try to focus on the good way. And I remember the first conversation with Becky where I just said, there's an appeal in creating something that outlasts me. I think it's part of the appeal in children. Part of the appeal in creating anything is the idea that, okay, well, people talk about leaving a legacy, that kind of thing. I don't mean a legacy in the sense that, well, centuries from now, they will remember my name. I don't care if they remember my name next week. If you make the world a better place,
Hmm.
somebody's living in a better place. Somebody's living with a better outcome. They don't need to remember your name. Make the difference and move on. And I remember that appealed to me. And so talked to Becky about it. And so we started asking the question of ourselves initially, well, okay, if you could spend some amount of money, if you could mark an amount of money that's substantial enough to make a difference, what would you do? What would be the thing that would change the world? And so we didn't have an immediate answer. We knew the concept. high level view, but we had no idea what that was. It wasn't just a go find a charity and dump it there. It was go find something that will be changed by this or doesn't exist. And we started to move towards the doesn't exist. We started asking people around us a lot. We started at one point, Becky posted on Facebook, and we got a ton of, I would do this, I would do this, I would do this. There was a ton of conversation around it. And when we went on the trip, I asked that question. I think it was at breakfast that I asked the question. And
What question?
I said, if money weren't the limiter, if money wasn't the limitation, what would you do? What would you? Oh, wow, it's never occurred to me until just now. My example of my dad.
Yes, I was
Son
going
of
to
a
bring it
gun!
up.
Yeah.
To which, Bill, I fell for the trap. I mean, I should have said, well, that's no fun. I mean, if
It's
money
no
wasn't an issue, then what are you going to stay up all night worrying about? I mean,
fun. Golly,
and if
you're right.
money's not an issue, why start a nonprofit? I mean,
Now, if money's not an issue and if failure wasn't possible, those are different things. But it is interesting.
I thought about that when you said it. I didn't know if you had ever made the connection.
No, it is interesting, the similarity, and I think, yeah, I think all those thought exercises are valuable. But the question was, if money weren't the limitation, what would you do? What would you do to make the world a better place, to impact people? By a better place, I don't mean like cleaner environment. I mean by the world, I mean people.
Yeah.
What do you do to change the world as far as people? And that morning, I remember a couple of answers. I do remember one of the men talking about like stopping sex trade, and it really spoke to him. I could tell, and I was moved by that. I think he answered before you. So when you said, "I would do this," I was I was looking at you like, okay, we're going backpacking. Backpacking does not change the world. It should be clear the degree to which I had no idea what we were doing. Keep in mind, I was on the trip because for whatever reason, I blame God. For whatever reason, that day in the gym, I was like, "Hey, do you still want me to go?" And you're like, "Yes." Will it be life changing? Yes. And I gave you a hard time. I still don't even know how. I was just like, "All right, I'll go." What did I just say? That's the only reason I was there. I still didn't know at breakfast if I was actually going on the trail. I just I just kept taking each step, and I'm texting Becky. It's like, "Hey, we're at breakfast. I don't know. I might be home in a couple of hours, or I'll talk to you in a few days," because I still didn't know.
Yeah.
In any case, you said this, and I'm looking at you like, what? But then to go back to the beginning of the conversation, that side of the mountain, it's like, not everyone goes through life trying to control their environment the way that I did. So that's not what's available to them. But what's available is awareness. And in my belief, it's an awareness that comes from seeking God's heart, seeking what God has for you, and maybe even seeking who God sees you as versus who you see you as. And the awareness of, like, you don't have to try to control everything. It's simple. It shouldn't take 40 something years and 5 days on trail to come to this. Hey, let me shortcut you. You don't have to control everything. It's
Yeah.
that simple, but it's not that simple because that wouldn't have gotten through. And so when you said it at breakfast, I was like, what are you talking about? And then on the side of the mountain, I was like, oh, I get it. He doesn't want people to go on backpacking trips. If you went on a backpacking trip and had a good backpacking trip, that would be the booby prize. That's not what WayForward trips are about. He wants people to get this, not a snowstorm under a tarp. Conceptually, like a breakthrough in awareness that leaves you free to choose in areas that you didn't even know you had a choice. Yeah, I'll take that.
Hmm.
And what more to want for other people? So many people are imprisoned not always by their choices, but they're imprisoned by the things they do automatically because they don't realize they have a choice.
Hmm.
You can be imprisoned by that. I was imprisoned by I have to control everything. I'm not
Yeah.
God. He can control everything. I can work really hard on the things I want to have occur.
Yeah.
And so when I got off the trail and I got home, I told Becky, I was like, I know what I want to do. And I told her all about it. And she's like, let's do it.
Hmm.
Let's have the Pinksons over for dinner. Like, all right. And blindside them because there's fun in that too. What are we having dinner for?
Just to hang out. God.
Surprise.
Bill, you said we'll get to dinner, but you said something that I want to just highlight, like the living in the bondage or living imprisoned. Uh, I think we so dramatically underestimate how much that robs us when we don't we know that we don't have life the way that Scripture talks about, but we don't know why. And it's that we're in bondage to our own thoughts. It's that we can't break out of this thing. We're stuck in a rut. And so, didn't even tell you last time we talked. The podcast was going to have one name. I told you if it got to 1 million subscribers, that it'd become the Toddcast. I'll still hold true to that, but
All
it's
right.
no longer called what it was. Now it's called Unstuck and Alive. It's
Love it.
that idea that we need things that act as catalysts in our life to get us unstuck. And it was, I mean, Brewster said it. I think you were at the retreat down at his ranch where he said it, that that's what WayForward does. It
Yes.
helps people get unstuck and find life. And so you mentioned that kind of in the process of talking about what happened in you, and then we also saw that happen in the guys. Like, man, that trip was remarkable. I mean, marriages are together now that probably would not have been. I remember John at the end of the trip saying, we've been doing a Bible study together for 5 years, but I feel like now I really know you guys. And it's just true. You can work out alongside of each other. You can even open up the Bible and talk about Scripture together. But until you get to a place where you're real and raw and vulnerable with each other, there's a layer, whether it's an intentional mask or just a layer that keeps you from really knowing somebody.
Totally. And
And so,
it takes time to break that down.
for sure. And I think it takes other people. There is this momentum effect where when one person shares something, another person feels like, man, I can go there too. Um,
Well,
and so,
and I'm sorry, when I say time, I mean it takes a concentrated and consistent time with people. So if you're on trail for 5 days, you didn't sleep at all, that's 120 hours. I could spend 1 hour a day with that same group for 120 days. None of that would have occurred. It's it's the concentrated time because you don't have the time in between to reset and rebuild the facade. At
yeah,
some point, like you start stripping the facade away, and there's no time to be like, wait, no, I have my life all together. Let me put my facade back up. And instead, you're like, oh wow, well, it all got stripped away, and people still love me, and people still want to pour into me. Oh well, this is a place I've never been, and you
Hmm.
never get to an hour at a time.
yeah. Hmm. So I interrupted you, picking back up at the story. You invited Aaron and I over for dinner. A few glasses into La Pinta.
That's kind of funny. Maybe for y'all, I did I even have?
I don't know.
Maybe I tend to not drink at all.
I mean,
Um,
it was a celebratory night. So you might have had a sip.
I might have had a
You,
sip.
you certainly
The
didn't have any hard ketones.
No, I didn't. So Becky and I invited y'all over to just say, okay, well, we've asked a lot of people what they would do. I apologize, even though you didn't know it, for thinking, what a moron. When you said this, I would do this. And instead, we're going to say it with you. And now it's a good idea. And so, uh, and so we told you, like, hey, let's do it.
Hmm.
Let's we'll we'll throw a safety net underneath this that gives it time
Hmm.
to get on its feet, and let's do it.
Bill, I think one of the things that's fascinating about the story, like, we did not know each other that well. We had worked out and had a very casual friendship at the gym. You'd come to the Bible study some, but it wasn't like we didn't know each other's families. We had not spent a lot of life together. So you really are stepping into the big unknown. You don't know me that well. You certainly don't. Outside of 6 days on trail, you don't know what this is. You had seen a little bit of the product, and you and Becky wanted to jump in. Like, what
100%.
um what had prompted you guys? Like, what made y'all feel comfortable doing that? You're certainly a risk taker. You're an entrepreneur. You operate with a level of risk and ambiguity that most people are uncomfortable in. But just like, what's it like in that moment to step into something like that, not knowing what it's going to look like, but trusting?
Well, I'll add a little bit to that and then fully answer the question. I had donated to Young Life with you, even though it took months from the time I said I would until the time I did. But it turns out that was all just good timing as well. Who
Did
knew?
that check cash?
That one did.
That one did.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Hey, who hasn't written a hot check or two? Okay. Uh,
The first check to WayForward was a hot check.
Becky forgot to transfer funds, which is comical because the number of things I could start by describing with Becky forgot. I don't need. I could lose a finger or two, and I'm still using one hand for those. Becky has very high attention to detail, and she gets things done. And the fact that she wrote a check to WayForward and didn't transfer the funds to make it anyway, that's just fun.
nothing
But
nothing makes you feel like you've just been a part of a scam.
yeah,
Like a couple inviting you over for dinner, telling you they want to start a business with you. It's a nonprofit. They're going to help get it funded.
wait.
And then after, a couple more conversations, they write a check and it bounces.
So our software company, our very first hire, we hired this kid from New York. His name's Ramon. Freaking awesome guy. Was still there when we sold the company. Ramon Pacheco. Hey, Ramon. His starting date, we didn't realize this at the time. He moved from New York, no money. We just told him you have a job. Our first employee. We didn't have names on the office doors or anything. We just rented an office in this little place. We had two little tiny rooms. We had something come up with the kids his first day. He gets to the office. There's no nameplate. The door is locked. We're not there. And we get this call on our cell phone, kind of in a panic. And he said, I was really terrified. All of a sudden, I realized today's April 1st. And I thought, certainly nobody would do this. So Becky and I kind of have a history of this. And we're like, no, no, Ramon, we just had something come up with the kids. Go get a coffee. We'll be there in an hour. And so same with you. You're like, no, we'll transfer the funds. The check will clear. We have a history. I already had a degree of trust for you, even though I didn't have the friendship that later blossomed. But the degree of trust I had from you, you did all your reps in the gym. No, the degree of trust I had for you in just who you presented yourself as and who you showed up as, that was the reason that I wanted to I wanted to support Young Life, but I also wanted to support what you were doing.
Hmm.
You just immediately struck me as you're transparent with where your heart is. You're out to make a difference. I want to support I want to support Todd Pinkston's mission. because I do think you have a mission. And when the mission was Young Life, I wanted to support that. I'm never going to go to Young Life, but I did go on WayForward. And so now all of a sudden I do have both these things, which is I knew you well enough. I want to support your mission in life. I just do. And then all of a sudden your mission in life had just changed my life. Well, I'm in every way. Let's do this. Let's go. Because yeah, I was 100% in. And so that was exciting. It didn't feel risky because what's the risk? I mean, my worst outcome is you managed to get us on the trail for I'm going to say let's go out on a limb, a less than premium backpacking experience, and you managed to get us. If what WayForward was going to become was premium experience, oh my gosh. And so I felt zero risk because the worst outcome was we spend some money, some people go on trail, one life has changed. You know what? If you had told me before the trip, hey Bill, you're going to realize you don't have to be in control of everything, and you're going to have choice in an area of your life that you're currently out of control in, and you don't even know you could have choice. Would you pay $100,000 for that? I'd be like, sure. Give me my $100,000 awareness. Well, so if we spent $100,000 and got one guy who had a similar experience, okay, good. Impacted his life like mine. There wasn't. What's the risk? Yeah, I just didn't even feel any risk in it. It was some lives will be changed. I'm in.
I even hearing you say that now, I mean, I think back, knowing me where I was 12 years ago, that's a lot of risk. But I believe when you say it, because I mean, I remember a couple years on trail, I would always talk about my fear of this not working. And one year you just said, hey, and you went around the circle and said, hey guys, have you been impacted by your time on trail, or have you seen anybody impacted by a previous trip? And everybody was like, yeah. I mean, they went around to a T. And you said, well, you can stop worrying about that because it's worked. And I just, it sunk in with that comment of like, what are you worried about? Like, why do you worry about achieving some sort of thing called working without, as opposed to just looking around and saying it's working? And I think that was shaped by you. That was shaped by your perspective. And it took countless times of you reminding me of that. And so thank you.
You're welcome.
So 12 years later, our friendship has grown. You've jumped into different pursuits. But how are you different now than you were back then? WayForward related or not? Just what has the Lord done in your life over the last 12 years?
I would say one of the big ones is being more comfortable. Like I said, I got my big toe in the water. I think being comfortable that some of this still has some difficulty in saying. Wouldn't it be insulting if I said God made me as a unique individual with all his love and care, he produced this person, and that person can make no difference or impact whatsoever? Well, that would be pretty insulting to God.
Yeah.
The flip side is it feels threatening to embrace it, and I have some understandings why now, of like some ridicule that happened in my life at a young age, that a very young Bill made those decisions about what that means and what that feels like and how to prevent it. And I'm fine with that. That did a lot of great things for me. But just like I don't have to be in control, I don't have to keep abiding by decisions that, a third grade me made. Third grade me did his best, but they're not binding. And so I think one of the bigger changes for me has just been that, you know what? Keep your heart in the right place and try and impact as many lives as you can and embrace it. And if you shy away from it, you're squandering any ability that you have. I do think God gave me a good ability to bring a different perspective. I do think He gave me an ability in some situations to be persuasive, and occasionally, when somebody is stuck, to unstick them. There is some, like, well, let me see if I can kind of pull in an emotional and rational framework that challenges where you are and what you think is true. And if it challenges in a way that is good, you might end up in a place that's much better.
Hmm.
And so I've embraced that more
Hmm.
in a very different way. I'd say another big difference between me and the Bill of, was it 13 years ago? Was that it?
Yeah.
I think the vulnerability and the openness that I'm willing to engage in, and engage in quickly.
Hmm.
If you and I were to go to dinner right now, I'd talk with you about anything instantly. Wouldn't do it with a stranger, but yeah, those types of things. There was one more lurking in there that I okay. There's a couple. One of them is the ability to not be okay with something and not be angry about it,
Hmm.
but just to continue to assert, well, I'm not okay with it. And a younger version of me was just still so full of piss and vinegar that it's like, if I'm not okay with it, I'm really not okay with it. You need to change it now. And okay, yeah, there's a reason my fists are balling up. It was just horribly unhealthy. And it was so easy for me to go to anger. Not going to anger when I'm hurt, I had started to already kind of come to grips with, but not going to anger when I'm in a conflict with someone, independently of the hurt. That's really changed, and so it's allowed me to be able to say, "Man, I'm not okay with that thing. I'm not
Hmm.
pissed about it. It's just I don't accept that it is the way it is, and it needs to change." And
Hmm.
continuing to be okay with that. Yeah.
It's awesome.
What else you see?
Oof.
Yeah.
I when we were talking earlier about growth, I do think you are constantly growing. Like, it's one of the things I admire about you. I mean, some of my favorite times are like walking into your shop, and for 30 minutes you will literally just walk me around and show me all the things that you've modified or changed. I mean, before the recording started, you were telling me about the wheels on your chair. Like, I just I love
I
how you
demonstrate.
are I love how you're constantly growing. And so I know I'm going to get that. Like, when I'm in Dallas, I carve out a chunk of time because I want to come be with you. And selfishly, it makes me better. And so, I think it was last year, I'm skiing with Trip, and you called and you said, hey, and you had the story about why you were doing it. And you said, so I've decided I'm calling 5 people because I want to ask them to tell me where my blind spots are. I trust you. I love you. And I think you know of some that I probably don't know of. So go for it. I'm on the lift, and I'm like right now? You're like, yeah, I mean, I'm ready.
Come on. I figured you just lay it on me.
to which I needed a little time. But, in that, and I took some time. I took a couple weeks to think through, because that's a tender question, and also, I mean, it's a tender spot to be invited into. And I wanted to give honest feedback. And in that conversation, the way that you received it and the way that you put actions into place around the things we talked about, none of them were a surprise to you. And I think, is that the notes?
Those are my notes from the conversation. I keep them right there. Sorry, go ahead.
Man, I had like 2 pages of notes. But
much more concise.
I think the way that you make people feel is different now than it was 10 years ago. The way you care about Becky now is different than it was 10 years ago. The way that you are pressing into struggles is different now than the way it was 10 years ago. The way you're following Jesus is different now than it was 10 years ago. And man, I've have had the joy of being on trail with you several times, and I feel like those are just kind of markers where you get to see what has changed and dive deeper in a condensed period of time. And I feel like I've seen life for you continue to develop, and you've become a more powerful leader, a more aware leader, and in a lot of ways softer without losing your edge. Like, you're still as competitive and driven now as you've ever been, and there's a softness to you that I think makes you more approachable now than you've ever been.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling somebody, it was only 3 people, by the way. I don't know if I can handle 5 people. Whew, dang. I was telling somebody about that the other day, and the 3 people that I asked, none of them, I think, still know who the other 2 are. You don't know, do you?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No. So anyway, I was talking about that the other day, and I was telling somebody about doing that and about my 3 takeaways. And my 3 takeaways that I decided were kind of most important for me to learn in that was, don't monopolize the conversation. You don't have to be the center of it. And that was great feedback, because like it's never my goal to monopolize a conversation. I'm just excited and out it comes. And so hopefully storms are starting here, so hopefully our connection stays good.
You did have a little glitch. You said the 3 things I took away were, and then you froze.
Yeah, keep them in suspense. It's all in the delivery. And tune in for episode 2. One of them was, don't monopolize the conversation. And that was a big one. I never try to monopolize it. I get excited when I get around other people, and Another one was check your ego sometimes. You do have an ego. You're pretty good about it, but sometimes, man, check your ego. And then the third one was, watch your language. Like, your occasional tacky joke has made my wife really uncomfortable, and I have to defend you to her. And that last one, so you said, let me give it some thought. Guy number 2 said, let me give it some thought. Guy number 3 was like, I got it for you right now. It's like, okay. Hey, now how awesome is that? Because if this is what I'm after, I was like, heck yes.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, it was the tacky conversation. And so that's probably another way I've changed a lot, is I'm so prone to it. And I worked really hard to identify, like, why does that hold appeal for me? And I've eventually figured out why. And man, now I'm so grateful for that guy for just going, I got it right now. I was like, lay it on me. And when he said, I have to defend you to my wife, like, what kind of friend am I that you're having to convince your wife I'm actually an okay guy to be around? Oh, I wanted to vomit.
Yeah.
And how cool is that I have men in my life? Some of them take a while because they say, I need to get an ISBN number. I got to figure out how many pages long I want this to be. And that's great. That's great. But I also got that guy who says, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. Those are awesome
Hmm.
men to have in my life.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I can't speak for the other two, but I can speak for the other two that all three of us would say how awesome to have you in our lives.
No, thank you.
Just, I think that the way that you approach life is inspirational. The way that you see things, even I mean, going back to the comment about having life change. Would you pay 100 grand for it? I mean, most people don't think about it in that scope, and you do. Like the way that you invest wisely, not just in the market, but you invest your time wisely, you invest your money wisely in things that you care about. And it shows. It produces in your life continual growth. And then those around you are inspired. And so for me, I'm grateful for you. You make me a better man. For the thousands of people that have been on a WayForward trip, you were catalytic in their life to creating those moments. Without you and Becky being willing to jump in and take that risk that you say was no risk, there is no organization that creates those experiences for them. And so, probably one of the sweetest moments for me was this last summer after you had gotten off trail and John Hinckley's crew was in the cabin next door. And I took you over there and to literally get to take a step back and watch you interact with these guys. One, you care. Like you care about the people that you don't even know their name yet, and you care about them. You care about the experience they just had. Like that shows your heart. But two, to get to hear them tell you thank you was just really sweet. And man, I just I wish I could have captured it as they're talking to you, and you're a legend. I mean, you say, yeah, you don't care if they know your name, but the fact that you're the guy that helped create what they just got to experience, there was so much gratitude in them about that.
Mm.
And so I hope you know that. Like I know I've heard you say things like, outside of your kids, you're most proud of being a part of WayForward, and man, that like how dear that is to me just to get to work on it with you. But not just what it has produced as an organization, but the impact that you have been able to produce in people's lives. And so, thank you. I love you. I am grateful for your friendship. And so, Bill, I want to just rapid fire to finish things off. I want your quick answer, not
Okay.
thought through,
All right.
off the cuff. Bill, do you believe in aliens?
Nope.
Bill, Bitcoin, are you in or out?
In.
I laughed when I wrote that one. What's your favorite meal?
Steak and cherries.
If you could meet one person, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Oh, I have to think on this one. One person, dead or alive. I'll go with Apostle Paul, and I don't think I ever would have answered it that way ever before in my life, but that's what came in. Apostle Paul.
If you could set up a workout that you feel confident you could beat just about anybody in, what would the workout be?
It would be 60 rounds for time of one ring muscle up and one 405-pound deadlift.
I love it.
I think I'm taking it.
Oh, Bill, who's your hero?
Oh, man. I have so many heroes in my life. That's all over the map. So many of my hero. I try to always answer a question. I hate I can't answer that question. It depends on the context. I got to do it on that one.
Who came to your mind first?
Literally, I'm literally what came up was just a splash of men's faces.
Huh.
I saw you and Jason Cates and John Marshall and just all these guys where I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like I see The other day, Jason Cates did something that I would have been a little timid to do, and it was such a good example. And I was like, dude, thank you for doing that.
Hmm.
You Thanks for being the man who will do that, because it's an example for me and it needed to be done. And so what I saw when you asked the question was like just
Hmm.
billboard, men's faces. I can't pick one of those. I,
Hmm.
I tried.
If you had to
Can't
give
pick
a
one.
concise summary or description of what a WayForward experience is, what would you say?
A way forward experience is getting that unstuck. It's it's different from the rest of life. Life is driving a car. When your car is stuck in the mud, it's a totally different set of actions you take to get it out of the mud.
Hmm.
You don't just drive it. You do something unique. You might get dirty while you're doing it if it's stuck in mud. Way forward, you might get dirty. You might get your boots wet. You you might get mud on your clothes, but it gets into the mess of things in a way that teases apart things that don't get unraveled otherwise.
Hmm.
The busyness of life, you're constantly pulling the knot tight,
Hmm.
and a way forward trip is long enough in the right environment to untie some knots.
Hmm.
And God will show you things you haven't seen before. And I live long enough to learn wisdom from your adult kids. I agree with what my son Mitch says. If you know the outcome, it's not an adventure.
Hmm.
And way forward is that. You don't know the outcome. That's why when you said, I would do this, I'm like, we're going hiking. No, the outcome was that moment on the side of the mountain. Part of my brain is saying, he said concise. The the outcome was that side of the mountain. That was the outcome. I didn't know that was coming. I thought we were going hiking.
Hmm.
Life changing.
That is concise, Bill. I didn't even have to take a break.
But it was almost one breath. By
Yeah.
my standards, it was moderately concise.
All right,
Just
final one.
okay.
If you could hold a world record in one thing, what would it be?
Kindness.
Hmm.
I don't know how they assign records. I've spent a lot of my time
Hmm.
not being very kind,
Hmm.
and I've worked on it for a long time. If I
Hmm.
could be the best at anything, it doesn't mean softness. It doesn't mean getting trampled on. You can be strongly kind. I would be the best at kindness. People would say he's the kindest guy I know.
Hmm. I love it. Hey, Bill,
Ready?
if somebody wanted to follow you, if somebody wanted to learn more about you, where can they find your stuff?
My Instagram is at Bill Strahan. That's the easiest way to start tracking things down. My Instagram stuff is all over the map. Post my phone number. I don't care. I mean, what calls am I going to get? I would answer them. And to that point, can I ask a question yet?
Of course. Well, hold on. Is shirtless Bill still a thing?
Shirtless Bill. I have not posted a shirtless Bill Instagram post since I was called out on my ego.
Hmm.
And so that's something that I've questioned a bit. I didn't delete the account, so I still have the shirtless Bill Instagram, but I haven't made a post to it
Hmm.
because I'm not sure that I can do that and honor what I'm working on with my ego.
Hmm.
And I don't know if it will make sense to have a shirtless Bill account with a Bill with a shirt on.
Paradoxical. I like it.
Yeah, it might be, or I might find a way to be playful with it.
Yeah.
But if I do anything with it, it will be something that I'll be checking in with the guy in my life who challenged me on my ego.
Yeah.
That's how I keep myself from being the guy on the deserted island.
I love it. All right. What's your question?
Are you guiding my trip this summer?
Are you going on a trip this summer?
Yep, let's do it.
Pick the dates, Bill.
It's got to be August, I think.
I
I
would
need your
love to
later
guide.
dates.
I would love to guide your trip this summer.
Awesome.
I love every opportunity that I get to spend in the mountains with you on an adventure, unsure of where it'll end up.
No idea where it ends up. And if I can't fill the trip up, anyone who hears the podcast, come on.
Let's go.
You can get more of this.
Bill, I do love for your 50th birthday, you did a Friends of Bill trip. And one of my favorite comments was, what if nobody goes? What does that say about me? And then one person signed up and you said, I might have to change the name, Friend of Bill.
Hey, that challenged my imposter syndrome and my
Absolutely.
friendship. That was challenging in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
So
I feel it every time that I raise my hand to put a group together, for sure. Even though I believe in it, there's something about going for it. What if nobody says yes to go with you? And it's good. And that's part of the reason why the podcast is here is just another step into being uncomfortable for the sake of blessing others. Bill, you are a gift to me. I could talk to you for hours. We have had many hours long conversations. Some over dinner, some over sushi, some just hanging out. But I love you. I hope this is a gift to other people just to get to hear some insight from you. I know we'll be doing many more, but I'm grateful for your friendship. I'm grateful for all the ways you've blessed me, my family. I'm a better husband. I'm a better dad. I'm a better leader because of you. And so thanks for all that. I love you, Bill.
I love you too, Todd. And thank you.